Hey everyone, this is RayRob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And we want to welcome you to our podcast, Hello Movies, My Old Friend.
Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old friend.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 2 of Hello Movies, My Old Friend. Rob, we're still new. This podcast is still new. Remind everybody before we get going what we're doing with Hello Movies, My Old Friend.
Absolutely. So with Hello Movies, My Old Friend, which is separate from Say Hello to My Little Film. Totally different. Is Ray and I have compiled a list of movies together, as opposed to recommending ones to the other, of movies that we saw when we were kids, more than 2 decades. Yeah, maybe through high school. Maybe through high school. And we haven't seen them since. And we remember really loving these movies.
Why did we stop seeing them?
Exactly. Why did we stop watching them? For whatever reason. And we would like to revisit these movies and see if they still hold the same place in our heart they did then.
That's right. And, for some context, I just want to I did this last time. I want to do this again. I want to talk about some of the movies that we could not do on Hello Movies, My Old Friend, because it would break the rules.
Definitely.
The Sandlot.
Definitely not.
Love that. But we've seen it. We want something that we haven't seen in years.
I watch it with my kids, so yeah. No.
Seen it with my nephews. They love it. Ghostbusters, come on.
Definitely
any of them. We love them all.
Yep.
Well, we love all the ones from our high school years and younger, and we really like the new ones.
Sure.
But Tommy Boy.
Nope.
No, we all know.
Boy.
Yeah, even if I hadn't seen Tommy Boy in 20 years, I would still remember everything that I love about it. Doesn't make the list.
Definitely.
Monty Python.
Yep, definitely not as well.
Pick your dealer's choice on which one.
Any one of them.
Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, some of the great Adam Sandler stuff. No, we've seen them too many times.
Definitely not those.
We want things we've taken a break from.
Exactly. Whether we've meant to or not.
Probably didn't mean to. Because
sometimes, it just happens.
Forget about it. We used to watch them on TBS.
Exactly. Old friends.
Yeah.
Old friends that have just, drifted apart for
They're
various
not
reasons.
on Facebook, so we haven't tracked them and stalked them.
Exactly. But, in the new modern age of streaming, a lot of these movies have started coming back around again.
We can catch up with them.
We can. So for this episode, I think I can safely say for both of us that this is probably one of, if not the movie that really launched us to want to make this particular podcast.
Yes, I think we didn't do it for episode 1.
Right.
But this is the movie that, when we started talking about it, we're like, well, we can't talk about this on Say Hello to My Little Film. We need to start something new to do it.
Exactly.
Now, tell everybody what it is. We're really happy about this.
We're both really giddy. We've both been really wanting to watch this movie, and it is the comedy classic Big Man on Campus.
Yes, I remember just loving this movie.
I do. I remember loving everything about this movie, starring Corey Parker, written by comedian Alec Katz, who is also in the movie, stars in the movie as Bob Maloogaloogaloogalooga.
I'm not going to say that.
One Maluga, 4 Lugas.
Probably a quote me and Rob, for some reason, throw out there way too often.
But, again, this is a movie probably through just the unavailability.
Yeah, it's hard to find anywhere.
Yeah, for the longest time, I don't think this was even on. I don't know if it ever made it on DVD. I think it was just on VHS at one point. But Kino Lorber has answered our prayers and released a Blu-ray edition of Big Man on Campus.
And we'll be damned if we don't watch it.
Exactly. When we saw that, I about jumped out of my seat. So yeah, I've actually got it in my hand right now, and reading the back, there's some things about this movie I already had forgotten.
I'm not I know we have some quotes that we love. I love the main concept of the movie, but think there's a lot of this movie I don't remember.
Right. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's kind of a modern take on the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but it takes place on the UCLA campus. In fact, the movie was called The Hunchback of UCLA at first, but the college actually made the studio change the name of the movie to Big Man on Campus.
Whatever.
But yeah, so reading the back, there's some people that I remember. I remember Tom Skerritt being in it as one of the doctors that works with Bob. Cindy Williams is a speech therapist. I remember that. And Melora Hardin from
Jan.
Right, Jan
from The Office.
From The Office and Monk. For those Monk fans out there, she is in it
that's not true.
As the girlfriend of Corey Parker, which again kind of blows my mind a little bit.
I don't remember this.
And making a return to the Car RayRob network is Jessica Harper from Phantom of the Paradise.
We talked about her
and Suspiria last month.
Yeah, last month.
It was last month. So yeah, it's.
Don't remember her either being in this. To be honest with you,
exactly. So it's just funny that how a movie like this can at the time feel like it takes such a place in your heart, and after such a long time.
If this was on Comedy Central, I was not missed. Like, stop. The day's over. I'm watching this for the next 2 hours.
Absolutely. But it could. But is it just the memory? Is it the nostalgic memory of Big Man on Campus that makes us love it so much in our minds?
I'm nervous. This could be a movie that doesn't hold up.
I could see
like loving the parts that I remember loving. I think some of those line deliveries are still going to hit for me. But I wonder if it's going to hold my attention for 90 minutes.
Definitely, yeah. We'll definitely have to see. But I think that time is now.
Let's watch the movie.
Let's do this. We are going to pull the Band-Aid off. We are going to watch Big Man on Campus, see if it still holds up after all of these years. We are very excited. Stick around. If you haven't seen Big Man on Campus, you have the opportunity to do it now.
You have to.
We do it. You got to do it. Well, we'll see if you got to do it. I guess we'll find out if you got to do it. But we got to do it, and we will be right back with you.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You might also be watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
All right, everyone, we are back. We have swung from the clock tower and watching Big Man on Campus.
You bet your butt cheeks we did.
Absolutely. And you know what? I think we might do things just a touch differently than what we do on Say Hello to My Little Film. I think we are going to, because I feel like I just want to be really open about what I feel about this movie after this rewatch. So instead of slow burning it to the end where we decide at the end, do we like it? Did it hold up?
Would you recommend it?
Would you recommend it? All of that. I'm going to be upfront right now. And I'm going to say, energetically, I still love this movie.
I don't know why I stopped watching this movie. I loved it.
I there are so many parts that I forgot, but there were so many parts that I remembered.
Yeah.
And man, I just really enjoyed this
movie.
It
was really fun to have it start to come back to me. Oh, this part's coming up. Oh, this part's coming up.
Right.
It was really funny. It was still funny.
Absolutely.
You go ahead. I was going to say, I'll go ahead.
Okay, you go ahead.
I'm going ahead.
We're going to step on over each other's lines because of how much we love this movie. Go ahead, go.
Alan Katz as Bob is the crutch. Obviously, he's the title of the movie's about him. He's the big man on campus, but he is the crutch of this movie.
Absolutely.
He's awesome.
Absolutely. And it's from the first moment. I forgot about him singing over the opening credits.
Yeah.
I mean, that was so
just a little touch.
Just a little touch.
Goes a long way.
And it was like, and as soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh, I'm watching Big Man on Campus. It's happening.
Why has it been so long, my dear friend?
Yeah. But it was so good because how it opens up with the mysterious creature at the school and the opening interviews.
Myths, the rumors.
Right, exactly. The 250-pound baked potato or whatever they
Great
call
descriptive term. Right. I wrote that one down. I love that.
It's so good. But then you also, that's how meet the other characters, Alex and Cathy, because they're some of the people that are being interviewed.
Yep.
So it's a great way to kind of get them right in there, and you kind of set up their dynamic a little bit. Alex is obviously the goofball, the one-liner guy.
Always pithy.
Always pithy, exactly. And you can tell that Cathy is a little bit more of the softie.
Right.
She's got the heart. She carries the heart.
Jan from The Office being the heart is new. I was not used to that.
Mrs. Monk, though, if you knew her from Monk and not from The Office, you would see the heart. You would see the heart.
Okay, well, give her credit. I saw it here, though.
Exactly. And then there was that William Zabka wannabe that was there in that fucking.
He just kind of popped up every now and then.
Right.
Pop him in the mouth.
Right. I don't know what happened with that guy, but yeah, no, and I just. It just goes. Like, it's a movie that just goes. There's not a slow build. You kind of meet Bob, like, visually.
Very quickly.
Right,
yeah.
very quickly. Like, you kind of see him from the rear. Like, he's up in the tower watching him with his spyglass. And then he kind of just swings into action.
Yeah,
and we're going.
Yeah, he's in love. He's in love with Cathy. Like, he stalks her, essentially. But he's got limited options on things he can do.
Bob's a creeper.
Yeah. But it's funny, because his first thing is, like, he thinks he's heroically saving her.
Right.
And so he does the big, like, dramatic, like, Hunchback of Notre Dame, like, swinging in,
right.
but he completely biffs it and, like, crashes into a whole, like, Renaissance setup.
Which I love the fact that the intro is in during the Renaissance Festival.
Makes so much sense.
It's so fun. Like, it's such, like, a great little ode to the original and ode to the original story. Like, it's super fun in that regard.
Yeah, yeah. And then, then Bob ends up going to jail, but then you're right into it. You know, it's good. Like, there's no reason to slow burn anything here. Like, let's get into the comedy.
Right.
The comedy is going to be basically Bob's relationship with Alex.
Yeah.
Because essentially Alex gets sentenced to, like, live with Bob.
Right. Volunteered, sentenced. However, he would probably call it a sentence.
Right.
He's not very enthusiastic about it at first.
But Bob needs to be studied. He needs to be maintained. He needs to be supervised. And so this becomes Alex's job in exchange for supposedly not having to do schoolwork.
Right, we'll get back to that, but it's great too because you get the two doctor characters. You got Tom Skerritt who wants to rehabilitate Bob, and then you got Jessica Harper, Doctor Fisk, so returning again, fan of the Paradise, and she is the bad guy.
She looks completely different,
right?
But the same.
Very mean, very mean. So but she thinks he's a menace to society, wants to lock him up. So they do a great job, I think, of kind of establishing all these characters quickly. In this first act, but keeping the momentum going. Yeah,
and it's kind of a bigger cast than you think because there's also a third Doctor, played by Cindy Williams. Can't remember her name. I know her name is Diane, but I don't remember what her last name was. But
I don't either.
But she, but the characters are set up well. They're different enough where they want different things from Bob,
right?
And so their motives always make sense. And I think when you have 6 or 7 people in your cast all have different motives, just keeps everything moving. There's always another plot point to get to because of all these different motivations. So and it can move tight and quick.
Yeah.
And so the movie is paced well. It's into the jokes, and then but you're rooting for a lot of things to happen. I don't know, man. It was fun.
Yeah. Well, and I think you get introduced to Bob's world. You go into the clock tower. You meet Mooka.
Yeah.
You meet Mooka, his pet rat, which is just adorable.
I love I think Alex, Corey Parker at some point says he certainly has a way with word.
Yeah, has a way with word.
A lot of funny one-liners from him, where Bob is just more physical comedy, and as he's progressing through his growth of knowledge.
There was talking the one about Tom Skerritt was talking about the repeating of the word is masturbation. There's a form of masturbation, and Alex is I know a better one.
Yeah, that was a great line.
Keep doing that, you're going to go blind.
Yeah, he goes on a little roll here. You keep doing that, you're going to go blind.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's funny to me that I looked it up, as we were watching this movie about Corey Parker, and he really never went anywhere.
No.
After this,
he does a little acting, a bit of an acting coach now, but nothing really big.
No, but I think if I think more about it, I guess it makes sense because at this time, that quirky, slick, one-liner type character kind of was a little bit of a dime a dozen. You know what I mean?
Sure.
In Hollywood. So I could see how he's really great in this movie, but I could also see how this would have been it. Maybe didn't go anywhere else.
Yeah. The characters were kind of changing. This was the last bit of the 80s. The 90s were coming.
1989, yep.
I don't know, things just changed enough, and maybe Corey Parker just missed the boat. But like you said, he is great in this. He's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was really funny. And I think he, was a great like antithesis for Bob.
Yeah,
they complement each other so well. Their characters, Alex is just a little like, just a little more carefree, doesn't want the responsibility. Bob obviously needs a lot of tending, and just worked really quickly. That first night they spent together was really funny.
Yeah,
where they're, Bob's really obsessive over his area of the clock tower.
Right.
Alex is trying to just find how he can survive in here. It was fun.
Well, yeah, because it's like not only is Alex invading his space, but he's also like
cock blocking.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a sense, yeah, he's the other man, if you will, in his relationship or wannabe relationship with Cathy.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, it's I think really, we talked about Alan Katz being the crux of this movie that really holds it together. But you know what? I think I'm going to go a step farther because I really think Alex and Bob's growth over the course of this movie is so underestimated.
Yeah,
like how underappreciated, how good it is.
And I think there's depth to it. Like there's subtle depth to it that I think like a movie like that. This movie is not like overly well renowned or anything like that, but like I think they do such little good thing, like such little details, like in the clock tower that we were just mentioning, that as Bob progresses and like he starts to grow and learn quickly and like get domesticated in some ways, or catch up with evolutionary. So does the clock tower. Like it's a little bit, every scene it's a little bit cleaner, right? It's a little bit more organized,
put together.
It's a little bit more put together, a little bit more furniture and stuff. And same thing with Bob's wardrobe. Like he's very ragtag clothes, but every scene is a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer. Till eventually he's wearing sweatshirts and matching clothes, tied shoes, and same thing with Bob's language. Slowly it just gets a little better and better, and I don't know. There's just so many of those little touches. Like you might not notice the clock tower is getting more clean.
Right.
You might not notice that Bob's clothes are getting more and more like matched.
Right.
But like there are little details that people obviously spend a lot of time on, just like to just convey to the audience something that's really important, to show Bob's growth. And this thing, it's a detail you can miss in some comedies. You're just kind of speeding through for the jokes. But this movie, I think it does some of that background stuff that I think really helps it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and for being a movie about misfits, if you will, and how they fit into society, because that's kind of like Doctor Fisk's thing with Bob, is he's a misfit. He doesn't belong in society. I think they do a great job of kind of peeling back the onion, if you will, to use a Shrek reference, of who Bob is and a character like Bob and the intricacies. And even I think of some of the subtle details that you were just kind of mentioning, in some of the testing that they did with him, like when he's kind of trying to teach him different things. I think of the hammer game, like the hammer shape game, where he had to like
put the shape into the hole,
right, and then hammer it through. But instead, he just like hammers right through the middle one end and just shoves all the shapes through the same one. And I'm like,
tell me that's not genius.
That's super smart.
Yeah,
like I don't know what you're talking about. This guy's not an idiot at all. That's super smart. Because forget this. I'm just gonna put it through my own hole.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Done. What else do you want me? What's the next test? Here we go.
So I think that kind of stuff really worked and really helped endear Bob.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and that's what the whole movie is about. It's about like getting so emotionally attached to him and like, supporting his growth and like cheering for his growth until you get to the point where like, oh, now he wants, now there's so much growth that now there's conflict and relationship wise. But before we get to that, I do, there's a couple scenes that I know I was just dying to see.
Let's see.
Person.
I know. Go ahead.
And obviously him getting named is
of course
definitely that's something that we joke
whole
about.
Scene.
Yeah, we joke about that all the time.
The time.
Because his name in the movie is Bob Maloogaloogaloogaloogalooga.
Yeah. One Malooga, four Luga.
Absolutely. But the path to get there is just as good because his first name he throws out there is Judy Finkel. And, maybe this is of the times, but they think he should go for a more manly name.
Sure, William F. Buckley.
Which there already was.
William G. Buckley.
Then something more unique is encouraged, and that's when he just comes with Bob Maloogaloogaloogalooga. But I love it because he becomes attached to the name, and every time, like when he's on TV or something, like it's a hard name to say, and sometimes they only say 3 Lugas, and he's like, it's 4 Lugas. It's one more Luga. So I don't know. It's just Wanted to see that scene so bad, and it lived up.
Absolutely, but there's also so much heart in that scene.
Yes.
Because that's the scene where you get Bob's backstory,
Yeah.
at least from his point of view. And man, is it still heart-wrenching.
It is. Tom Skerritt is like asking him some probing questions about what he remembers from his childhood, and it's like, again, Alan Katz, who is not an actor up to this point. This is his first movie.
Right, yeah.
Like, crushes the scene. You know, he just
Kills it.
And he does it with subtlety and just like less is more, because it's like, what do you remember about your mom? Liked her.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. But it, you know, you could kind of say it's like he's being reserved. He's trying to hold back, and it's really good.
Like when she went to sleep and she got sick, she got sicker, and then she went to sleep and then didn't wake up, and like I mean that whole thing, and like you know, what did you know when you remember what people would say when they saw you as a child? Yuck. Sometimes. And it's so funny but so sad all at the same time.
It's like burst out laughing at just the thought, but also like, wait, that means he was, you know, people were like shouting at him or throwing things at him. It's like, oh, it's, you know, then it's not so good. And then they, you know, but like any good comedy, they do manage to leave that scene with a laugh too, because he's, you know, asked after, why is my face leaking?
Why is my face leaking?
So it's like, get out on top and let's keep moving back on. But brilliantly written scene, I will say it. For a comedy movie, I think that scene was brilliant. The ups and downs of that scene, some of the most funny stuff in the movie, and the most heart, definitely the most heart in the movie. I mean, to do that in one scene, that's an accomplishment.
Definitely, absolutely. But then you mentioned the conflict. So obviously, as he gets kind of grows as a person, you know, integrates more into society, kind of, you know, understands himself more. He decides Bob gonna get Cathy.
Yeah,
you know, and he loves Cathy, and he tells Alex, Bob gonna get Cathy.
Right.
And
they end up making a friendly wager,
right,
about if that could even occur,
which is uncool because it's not. No. It does not take Cathy into it at all.
Cathy is not a possession.
It's not a possession to be bid over.
But in the 80s, it was cool.
Different time.
Yeah, but and you know, Bob's pretty well progressed by this stage of the movie. He's like a full functioning human being now. He just has a big hunchback, but he's like, he can speak perfect. No, I mean, he can speak fairly perfectly. Maybe his cadence is a little off.
Yeah,
he's very
he
smart.
soaks in
way
all the
smarter than Alex.
Way smarter than Alex.
And Alex is like, I told you to stop reading my books. But yeah, so he's got a shot at her, and he, you know, and this is where they also kind of like, he starts to meet up with Diane, Cindy Williams, and there's some like sparkies that are going off between the two.
Well, to be fair, Bob wanted to learn to make good gnocchi.
Right. So she's, you know, a willing partner there.
Surprisingly so. Maybe even surprised herself.
I definitely think she was, because she kind of was reluctant to want to touch him. You know, he's got a big hunch on his back.
For
but
sure.
After she did, she's like, oh, that doesn't feel so bad.
But, you know, then obviously Bob kind of blows it because he admits, do you think Cathy would like this? Like, no, what? Well, I don't know. Maybe you have to go ask Cathy. He still doesn't know the subtle nuances of women.
There's lacking some empathy for sure. You know, there's only so much you can learn in a certain amount of time. But one school year.
And I will say, I remember this as a child, like it kind of going back to, like, you know, the memories of watching this movie and remembering things about the movie. And then as I'm watching the movie, like, I remember emotions I felt as a child in like certain scenes. And like, I felt my body kind of reacting to it in this weird way. Like I was waiting for this to happen. So when Bob finally goes to the museum,
when he's going to win Cathy,
and he proposes to her, and she turns him down. Like, I remember, like, that feeling of being crushed as a child. Like, it was so weird how my body remembered that, and like the sadness that I felt for Bob in that moment, and like, it was so crazy.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
I think that's so funny, and maybe that'll be something that we kind of experience more through this podcast as we kind of revisit some of these things we haven't checked out in a while. We're going to get these flashbacks of emotion, but you know, Bob jumped the shark there. It wasn't like he said he was.
I'm not saying she should have accepted it.
No, I thought the bet was just to make him your girlfriend, not your wife for life.
Right.
So I was like, whoa, I don't know if even Alex thought that was the bet, because Alex she's probably not going to say yes if Alex asked her to marry him. But yeah, no, definitely, you know, again, sad there. Bob just walks away, you know, pretty defeated. And then I guess the final act kind of kicks in from there, because mean doctor, what was her name?
Fisk.
Dr. Fisk.
Jessica Harper
Starts, you know, she knows that, I guess Bob was getting invited to go into a right-wing television show.
Right.
And he's going to prove that he's pretty smart.
Right.
That she was dead wrong for saying he was some caveman, like,
need to be locked up.
Need to be locked away, that he had no sense to him. And so instead of that, she tries to sabotage Bob. And so she takes advantage of his passion for Cathy and says, calls him randomly and says, Cathy's in danger.
Yeah.
Which, Bob has to then go and
it's
save
that
her.
Primal kind of like thing with him. It's like, he cares so much about her. It's like, again, that kind of primal protective thing.
Yeah.
And he just goes.
Absolutely. He just keeps chanting, Cathy hurt, Cathy hurt. And then, so he's storming through the quad, basically. The cops try to pull him over, and he's like, sorry, but I got to beat you up as I go save Cathy. And then he's storming through the sorority or wherever the dorms that she's living in, and he's causing chaos. And of course, it's just making it worse and worse for him. And then he finally gets to Cathy's room, and he's like, Cathy hurt, Cathy hurt. She's like, no,
I'm fine.
Totally fine. I was sleeping until you barged in here.
But then he has to run because the cops are all after him now. But then we get to a great cameo and another returning character to now Hello Movies, my old friend, but from a Say Hello to My Little Film alum, and that would be Garrett Graham as Hoyle. Beef
from
everybody.
Phantom of the Paradise.
Beef, so good.
The beef is back.
And he is the right wing nut job.
Yeah, basically he's kind of that right wing talk show host, and he's trying to he's very much like you might see today.
I was gonna say it's very prophetic. Yeah, very prophetic.
Railroading the host. Bob's not there to defend himself, obviously because he's run away at this point. And so, Bob catches wind of it, catches it on TV or something, and it's kind of like get to the studio quickly kind of thing. And, and then the movie pretty much is over.
Yeah, it ended.
One thing that we would have to criticize.
Yeah, if I was from a writing standpoint, maybe is that Bob is is able to change everybody's mind pretty easily right at the end.
Even like the real a-holes in the audience. Basically, Bob gets there. He finally, he does his swinging in, like we mentioned earlier, that he blew at the very first scene of the movie. He successfully picks up Doctor Fisk, and as he's swinging about, he makes her confess. And so, right away, everybody's like, "Oh, sorry, Bob, you're great."
Right. Oh, she was lying. She tricked you, and she barely even said that she tricked him. It was kind of very like, why you lie to Bob? And like, lie about what? I don't know. How do they know? So yeah, it's. But again, by that point, I've had so much fun in the movie. I don't care.
You really don't care.
I really don't care.
It would have been cool to have maybe one more emotional scene where Bob goes on and talks about his friends and what he really likes about these last couple months or something. Right. But maybe it feels bloated too. I don't know. Or maybe it slows it down too much. But actually, it's funny because this isn't the original ending.
Right.
We saw that out on the little bonus features.
Right. We weren't aware of that.
Yeah, kind of 50-50 on which ending we might have liked more.
Yeah. I think there's like another ending where there is
no talk show.
Right, there is no talk show. It's like the judge is going to put him away because of what happened at the dorm, and all of his friends are in trouble. So they're all having kind of like this mini hearing at the courthouse, and he rushes to the courthouse instead of rushing to the TV show.
Right.
And he breaks in and swings in through the window. It's kind of I remember the Alan Katz was the one, or was it the director?
Yeah, it was Alan Katz.
Was Alan Katz talking about it, or the director? Either way, they were talking about kind of being an ode to like Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin and Harold Lloyd and those guys that kind of like did those big stunts, in the silent era. So they did this kind of swinging in through the building thing, and you'd think in that instance that Bob's going to have a little bit more to say in the moment, you know.
That's where what that scene we were kind of just referring to, like we thought it needed, like that seemed so set up for it.
Right, but he doesn't. Basically, just the judge, he says that he did it for his friends, and the judge's like, "Oh, you're not crazy.
I like
you
people
just
that
like
do
friends."
things for friends.
Right. So it's like it's kind of like you need a mixture, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like that setup works, but you just needed a little more of the actual, like you said, the proving of it instead of just like
a little of the exposition there. Just a little of the exposition, I think, would have just done Bob right. But we know Bob at this point in the movie. Like we know what, like we watched it all occur, so we know what he loves and what he the friendship he feels for these people. So we really don't need to hear him say it. Right. But it just felt like it was really quick. Like it was over quick.
Well, to be fair, Garrett Graham probably just wanted to get off stage because he doesn't have a great history of what happens to him when he's on stage.
It's hit by lightning bolts.
So you didn't want to get electrocuted and fried.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go listen to our podcast from Say Hello to My Little Film.
Phantom of the Paradise, go do it.
It's
but
right there.
It's right there. But yeah, so as far as Big Man on Campus goes, as we said, I mean, it held up in every way imaginable.
Absolutely. This movie I probably haven't seen in 20 years, and I'll be darned if I go another 20 years without seeing it.
I would be shocked if it were maybe closer to 30.
Yeah.
For me. In all honesty, it
would just be if I had caught it on Comedy Central or something. Because another funny thing is this movie was never released in theaters.
Right. Yeah, it was direct. We looked it up, direct to video. They tried to sell it. They couldn't get distribution rights.
Right.
In the U.S., I think. They sold foreign, but they couldn't. It's something like that.
Well, it was, the company that was making it got into some kind of money troubles, and essentially they had sold the foreign rights away, and so no American distributor was going to pick it up just for American distribution. Like they wanted the whole thing.
Right.
And so they ended up not doing it all and going straight to video. But
yeah,
it ended up getting big on TV and stuff. Like again, I've always watched this on like TBS or Comedy Central or something.
Definitely. Well, and I remember it ended up like when it kind of disappeared. It did end up online at one point. I remember seeing something about that, like where it was on YouTube or something.
Yes, and then it kind of got a cult following.
Right.
Air quotes for that.
Yeah. So, and obviously it got built up enough for Kino Lorber to want to release this wonderful edition that you should totally go get if you haven't, because this movie is worth owning and it is worth watching.
We're watching this once a year now. It's in the rotation. You have the DVD. There's no excuse not to see it.
Exactly. I might watch it again before this week is out.
You should. All right, Rob, we are done talking about Big Man on Campus. That was great.
Absolutely.
So glad we got to see that again. Thank you guys for listening, but you guys aren't done. If you just thought you could listen to us and then leave, then you are no better than early Bob, and you're just a stalker, creeper. A stalker. We don't want be late Bob. Don't be early movie Bob. Be late Bob. Like the podcast. Subscribe to the podcast. If you are able to review the podcast, do so. If you leave us a 5-star review, we were going to someday read it live on air.
Fuck-a-malaka, yeah, we are. If there's a comment section on whatever platform you are currently listening to us on, by all means, leave a comment. Let us know if you also thought Big Man on Campus held up. If not, keep it to yourself. I don't want to know. This movie had so much heart. You must not have a soul if you did not think
you didn't like it as much as us anyway.
Definitely not. We will be back next week with a new episode of Say Hello to My Little Film.
Yes, we will.
Our other podcast that does still exist and you should be listening to as well.
All on the same network.
Absolutely. And then we will be back in 1 month with a new episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend.
Our Christmas special.
Which, at this time of year, it's the season of giving.
Yes, it is.
Where, the kids coming down on Christmas morning and they find a wide variety of toys underneath the Christmas tree. So for this Christmas, we are going to be talking about The Toy.
Yes, we are.
Starring Richard Pryor.
I'm very
and Jackie Gleason.
I'm very interested to revisit this movie.
This one's going to be one that I'm very interested to see how this movie holds up, because there is definitely some stuff being said and done in this movie that's questionable.
Be great, but it could be not.
Exactly. It's been a long time since I've watched The Toy, but I do remember a lot about The Toy, and I'm very interested to revisit that and see how that holds up.
Check it out with us.
Yeah, you're not going to want to miss it. So definitely check that out. And until then, this is Car RayRob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate.
Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old